Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of The Buy Round. I'm your host, James Graham, joined by Charlie White. And if you want to help the podcast, please do like and subscribe, all that jazz. Hit the notification bell. It really does help support the podcast. And good news, isn't it, Charlie? We've got that Patreon coming very soon. I'm actually genuinely excited about that because we were talking about doing a few closed group chats during selected games throughout the season.
Yeah, you want to have a WhatsApp chat going during the footy season. So while games are on, live chats with Jimmy, which will be part of the Patreon, coming post-Vegas. So very exciting.
Yes.
You're really starting to sound like a sort of a content creator, aren't you? Like, subscribe, all that jazz. You've sort of now become full-time podcaster, which is good to see.
Well, thanks, mate. I'd like to consider myself as a podcaster for many a year now.
Yeah, you have.
The fact that you've just figured it out that I am, I think speaks more about you.
What are you going to write in your Las Vegas occupation when you go in there? You have to fill in the form.
Podcast. I'm there for a holiday, mate.
Yeah, true. Well, no. Even on the Esther, you still have to say what work you do, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Podcaster.
Bravo.
Yeah, put the address down for the buy around. So if you get an email from the American government, just it's all legit.
Perfect, mate. Well, guess what? You can actually book the studio as well. So that address that you put down, you can actually come here and rent the studio. We've got a secondary studio. The Montoya's podcast is recording there. They're doing their show. They're doing a great job. Tell you what, Montoya's are hilarious.
They are good business, aren't they? And I think, for us expanding into the podcast space, you can have just the same amount of level of production as this. The own studio is there. So, I mean, I guess they could use this one. Anybody that wants that locker room feel, or they can go to our second studio.
Exactly right, Jimmy. But the Payne Haas stuff just keeps rattling on. Now, the news, obviously, a couple of different things have changed since we last recorded. I think take them all with a bit of a grain of salt, because I think now we've entered the PR campaign of this whole story.
Absolutely, we have.
Which is different sides of it, trying to cover their tracks, trying to turn the attention away from them. But the story that came out was that the Broncos are now out of the race. That broke yesterday. And then the other one is that they lowballed him. Now, I find it very hard to believe the Broncos would be silly enough to lowball Payne Haas. And I read that as sort of all right, the attention's on Madge. Let's get a story out there that takes the attention away from Madge and moves away from the pressure coming within. And as executives, let's wear some of the pressure.
Well, look, it's been, 3-4 days after Payne Haas. The story will continue. Obviously, there's not that much around at the moment, but this story's not going away, and it will continue to create headlines throughout the year. I've spoken about it before that, the Broncos go to the north of England to play Hull. If they don't win that, or Hull KR rather, if they don't win that, then the pressure's on. They come back and they play the Panthers. Like, the pressure's on Brisbane, and there is already a move to control what is out there through numerous people. A couple of them, the low ball offer. Just don't buy it. Because if I'm Payne Haas's management and I receive a low ball offer, I just tell them to up it. Say, don't be stupid, up it.
You almost wouldn't even present it to your client. Like, we just go, I'll tell you what, well, do yourself, you shove that where the sun don't shine. You know what, are you going to play a game here? Are you playing stupid games with my client? Shove it where the sun don't shine. Let's be serious here. Let's look at what opportunities you can provide to Payne Haas outside of the salary that you're going to give him. Let's see what we can do, because you know what he does on the field. So don't insult me. And if you are going to continue to insult me, then I'll look to move my client on. So that gets nipped in the bud relatively quickly. Also, if it is a low ball offer, the agent goes to his client, Payne Haas, and goes, they're not budging on this, which I don't perceive this to be true. But then he goes to market. He goes and speaks to Australian rugby. He goes and speaks to the Roosters, the Bulldogs, the Perth Bears, the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Every
single NRL team, Super League team, rugby union in Europe, rugby union here in Australia, speak to NFL.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't, if this was about the money, and look, it looked as if Payne Haas was leaning towards an R360 deal, maybe for opportunity, maybe for money, but the more I digest this story and the more I think about it, the more the stories that are out there around the relationship fracture between specifically Haas and Maguire seem to add up.
Yeah.
It seems to add up. It really does seem to add up.
An element of that almost proves that further is the fact that in this new contract with South Sydney, they've asked for a Wayne Bennett clause in there, and they've got a Wayne Bennett clause in there. It goes to show a level of paranoia around who the coach could be and how important the coach is for Payne. And you know, we spoke about that Toowoomba camp. I think we were one of the first podcasters to speak about that Toowoomba camp. And you know, there's stories starting to come out around that, around whether, you know, there was an incident there between Payne and Madge, and we don't know the full details and all of that stuff yet. But it does sound like there's been incidents and Payne Haas is over Michael Maguire. Simple as that.
Yeah, and look, you say about the Wayne Bennett clause, that is then further evidence to suggest that Payne wants to know who's going to set the environment.
Yeah.
And look, this isn't a Maguire bash up by any stretch, because speaking yet of evidence, I'll go back to the Canberra game in finals. Who finished the strongest? Well, the Broncos. Penrith, they were down. Who finished the strongest? The Broncos. Melbourne in the grand final. Who finished the strongest? The Broncos.
Yeah.
So
fitness was unbelievable last year.
There's some compelling evidence there for Michael Maguire and his staff and his players to say, this works, because come September, we need to be the fittest. When it's on the line, we need to be the fittest.
Absolutely.
And I get that.
Yeah.
And Maguire has evidence, hard evidence, to say to his players, you buy into this. And that feeling that you had on the first Sunday in October, when we won the first premiership for the Brisbane Broncos since 2006, have that one again.
For sure.
But
I think the fitness side of it is one element of Michael Maguire's coaching. I think it's more the other stuff that goes around it, where it's like, you know, the extra stuff that you take away from the field, because they were the fittest team, but that's not the only side of Michael Maguire's coaching. And Payne Haas loves hard work. He grew up on like being trained extremely intensely by his father, and you know, he was super fit. He's one of the fittest footy players we've ever seen for a guy of his size. He loves hard work.
Yeah, he does love hard work.
Yeah.
And look, just quickly going back to Maguire and what he's looking at, and you know, those three games that I've highlighted, and how they were the fittest in the biggest games. When it was on the line, they came home stronger. But also, greatness has been redefined. It got redefined by the Roosters, who went back to back post Maguire winning Souths in 14, and then Penrith just blew everyone out of the water. They have, like, they're just this supernova team. It's not over yet, but 4 in a row. Like, you know, in 20 years' time, when you look down of premiership winners of the NRL, it's going to read Roosters, Melbourne, Penrith, Brisbane, and then TBC for the next few years. Well, anybody that looks back in that snapshot of history is going to go, wow, that Penrith Panthers team, that's it, right? That's your snapshot. That is like eye-catching. Coaches will be egotistical to, like, Madge is he's got that first peg in the ground almost to go, I want to beat that, where people look back in history and go, why does it go Penrith, Brisbane? So there's an element of that and how he's looking to get there. You know, I mentioned Sorry, I'll stick on the Toowoomba camp. And
Can I say something about the how Madge talking about that Brisbane wanted to build this dynasty. It's interesting that he has supposedly turned things up over the off season, and this camp's been a major part of it as well. But it does seem strange because he tried that at South Sydney and it backfired miserably. And you had Luke Keary here on Monday sort of allude to that, like whereas he turned the dials up when he thinks everyone's going to rest on their laurels, he turns the dial up more. I don't know. I think when you hear someone like Matt Cameron talk about the Penrith Panthers, the way they manage their players from a fitness standpoint is completely different. It's like giving these guys the off season to really recover, take things easy, trying to get to a position where they can rest them at the back half of the year. Like it does feel like Penrith, like if you want to talk about building a dynasty and longevity, part of that for Penrith has been around managing these guys, and really looking after them at the top level possible. Whereas if you're then doing this whole thing with the Toowoomba camp and people commenting saying, 2 weeks in Toowoomba, please, if you're a FIFO worker, you're flying away all the time. If you're in the army. But these guys aren't in the army. They're highly paid, high performance athletes. And for them to have gone to England to go to the Kangaroos or played in the Pacific Championships, then they've coming back, then they go to Toowoomba for 2 weeks, then they got to go to England for another period. Like it's just it's not really the way to manage these high performance athletes.
But would Madge would have looked back at all his coaching experience, New South Wales, New Zealand, Tigers, Souths. Look, it's my understanding that he didn't change who he fundamentally was when he got these different roles, despite him knowing that things went pear-shaped at Souths. And look, he sort of cops the blame for that, whether that's correct or not, and we can evaluate and speak to people on the inside. But it's hard to change who you fundamentally are. And you mentioned there about Penrith's way of doing things. Again, he's looking at the evidence and going, well, my methods beat their methods when it really counted. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. If you don't like it, then that's fine. Look, no team has it easy. Every team works hard. Some work harder than others, but it is a lot in and around, not just the training. It's the what are you up to on the weekend? Like interfering, long days that aren't necessarily like field-based things. It's all the stuff in and around the game or in and around the training camp. And, I've read some of the comments on the YouTube of the last episode. And look, on its own, a 2-week camp in Toowoomba, we're not starting a GoFundMe page for the Brisbane Broncos top squad here. Like this isn't what it's about. And I said it's excessive in length. It's not excessive, but culturally speaking, in the NRL, a 2-week camp in the middle of preseason is excessive in length.
Yeah.
It is. And it certainly wouldn't be expected by the players. Like in any line of work, you have a level of expectation. And that level of expectation in different sports, they talk about the preseason camp. They go in America, they go away for maybe months, but that's culturally accepted and it's culturally expected, and that's just part of being an athlete. Like it is that they turn up to their training, they do their practice, they walk into their locker room, and hey, guess what? You've been traded. That is normal. In the United States. What's normal here in the NRL? Go away in the preseason for a weekend, maybe 5 days, maybe 7 at a push, not 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's different, and that's what puts people. That is naturally. Well, what are we doing this for? And it isn't. I mentioned the Nick Fozzard thing about hey, relax with the champions. No one's expecting that, but. There is a level of expectation that, okay, well, we know what to do now. Like, you grow as a team, you change as a team, you evolve as a team. The foundations have been set. I've even read like some of the stories coming out. Oh, Payne just wanted to change. Oh, bollocks. He didn't want to change. Well, he did. But you're telling me that in an ideal world for Payne Haas, he doesn't want to stay there and grow old with that team. He was at that team when they were wooden spooners.
Yeah.
He was there when they were wooden spooners, and he flirted with leaving, and he didn't. You're telling me now he gets to the promised land of a premiership with his mates that most of them have been there with spooners, and he goes, oh, I just fancy a change. You're joking me. In an ideal world, Payne Haas is there at the age of 26 now for another 6-7 years.
Absolutely.
And like realistically speaking, he built a dynasty there. Like I'm talking about Penrith.
Yeah.
Brisbane, and he's the cornerstone of that.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes on to win a Clive Churchill.
Yeah.
Or win a Dally M. Would never be about the individual accolades for somebody like him. But him, Carrigan, Walsh, Staggs, they etched themselves into Brisbane history together.
Yeah.
And look at some of those great Broncos teams. They have an opportunity to eclipse that. And he's saying he wants to change.
Yeah.
When all his family's settled up there.
I think the point you raised just before around like the phone calls, the interfering with what players are doing on the weekends, the overbearing nature, it's probably very similar to what Des Hasler was like with yourself. Was there moments with you during your career where you clashed with Des or players clash with Des, you know, during sessions? Like, did that ever happen to you during your time with Des?
I can remember the story goes that, you know, look, the Dogs had a reputation for having an incredibly tough, intense pre-season. In fact, I remember Mark O'Mealy, he played at Hull FC. I played for St. Helens. We're in the players' bar after the game. He goes, good luck at the Dogs. You know, I used to play there. He goes, watch out for the pre-season, mate. It's a killer. And I'm like, ooh, all right, okay. Like, I fancy myself as being quite fit. And I've come into the Dogs under Hasler, and for me, this was the NRL. This is the stock standard. This 4 sessions a day, 5 sessions a day. We had a full-time mind coach. Again, like, not just the physical output, but the mental output as well. And all the video in training. And I just thought, this, for me, it was a cultural norm that this is the NRL. This is the difference between the Super League and the NRL. But then I quickly found out that, oh no, this is up from what we did. And there's a story out there that when Hasler had agreed to come to the Bulldogs the year early, because if you recall, originally he was going to see out the year at Manly and then come the year after. It was all a bit all over the shop in terms of the planning of the pre-season. And he's been given the first week of pre-season training. And he turned around and said, is this for the New South Wales Cup? Is this for the reserves? Or is this? And they went, no, that's the NRL. And he goes, I think he said to Todd Greenberg, are you sure you want me to come in? Because that's going in the shredder. That's the New South Wales. We'll give that to the New South Wales, give that to reserves.
Wow.
Because we're about to go. And it was like, oh, okay. So like Des brought a level, I imagine, speaking to people who you were coached by Maguire at the time, it was very similar, very full on, very demanding. First year, got that sugar spike, got that spike of like, yes, we're all in. But then, you know, I think we had grown and we had evolved as a team. We'd laid the foundations of hard work there. And again, no one was expecting it to be easy, but it just seemed like there was, it got too much for some people. It really did. And, you know, I can, when I became captain, then the burden came on me because people come, mate, we weren't getting our schedule, like schedule changes, like intense long days, people just being like, what are we doing? Like, we're just, instead, the approach, and some of that is on the players and myself included. The approach came a bit of you lost the excitement to go in and work hard. It became a bit of a drag, and then for me, I'm not particularly I don't look back with any this is what I did with any sort of fondness, but I'm putting it out there, and people make this whatever. We had a short turnaround week, so a 5-day turn, and we'd come in. I think we'd had the day off after the game, and then the second day. So I think it was a Sunday, Friday. This is like the Tuesday, and we did a bit of video, did a field session, and then it's like, right, get on the line. I'm like, what? What we do?
Let's get on the line.
Well, get on the line means get on the try line. We're about to finish off with some conditioning. I'm like, we should. This is our, technically speaking, 2 days post game. We should be off. We'd normally be off. If it was a 7-day turn, we'd be off. It's a 5-day turn, which means it's all about rest and recovery. And we're being told we're going to do some fitness drills. So we did some. I think they were either 20, 40, 60s, or they were these repeat sprint efforts called Californians. Can't remember exactly the drill that we did.
And you're all sore as anything. I imagine you played a game 2 days ago.
So my head's gone. I'm shaking my head. I can't quite believe this. Part of me's thinking, am I going to get the tap? At the time, I think me, Tolman, playing long minutes. So I've just gone, I want to show you. So I've just gone out like a bull out of a gate. I'm not cruising to make the times. I am steaming it. And I'm doing it to try and get injured.
Yeah, wow.
And Tony Grimaldi come up to me after it. And he's like, oh, mate, great effort there. I was like, Lobby, I was doing that to try and prove a point. I wanted my hammy to go.
Wow.
Because I was like, and again, look back and you think, is it a bit of ego, a bit of trying to prove a point? And we're dealing with athletes. I know what I was. I'm not going to pretend like I was this angelic player that was always agreeable. I'm very disagreeable by nature. And that was my way of trying to prove a point. And even saying it to Grimaldi, he was like, mate, you can't say that. I'm like, mate, I'm being serious. I was going to injure myself. He said, mate, you got a game. I'm like, mate, I don't think we can't be doing that. And there was different times where, me and a couple of the other leadership group had to knock on the door and say, Des, we need to reevaluate this schedule. Need to reevaluate it. And sometimes he'd listen, sometimes he wouldn't.
And in terms of listening, would he change for a week and then get back to his ways a week later? Is that how he was?
It's funny you say that, Charlie, because that did happen a number of times. Is Des, we need to pull back here, and he'd give us the whole day off. He was never. He'd listen to the players, so and it often was the catalyst for a win. But then, yeah, you get the win, and you're thinking, well, maybe we're onto something here. And also, again, it's not a competition, and you don't compare. It's the comparison is the thief of joy. But around this time, we've got heaps of players in Origin, and few of the Manly boys, how you going with Des? Yeah, and they're talking around trainers, or they're in Origin camp, and they're almost going, well, it's easier in Origin. We don't train it, and maybe there's a case to say that's how you need to be in a rep side. And some of the boys there are saying, oh yeah, it's pretty intense. They're comparing notes on training schedule, and it filters through, and they're like, hey, have you heard about the Sharks? They do day on, day off. And we're like, what? Well, how did they get they were going pretty well at the time.
Yeah.
You get comparing, and Payne, who's just been with New South Wales, obviously under Madge, but people talk, and people would have been like, geez, he's intense, and he's been with Samo, and people talk, and look, every team trains hard, but yeah, it does affect you, like undoubtedly it affects you.
Yeah, that's fascinating, all that stuff, because it really like sounds like Madge and Des are maybe the most similar coaches in terms of methods, and as far as other coaches out there, there's probably a little bit of Craig Bellamy about Michael Maguire as well.
But I think it's well documented that Coach Bellamy changed
his methods. Yeah, absolutely,
changed his methods, and also I think the relationship with Coach Bellamy and his leadership group was second to none. Second to none. And I think, you know, equality gets spoken about a lot, but you got to treat people based off reputation and what they deserve.
Mm-hmm. It does feel crazy. Sorry, you go.
Because I was going to say, like, I know at Melbourne that those international players that came back late, they're not training the same as, you know, the new kids on the block. They've got to earn that. And there's a hierarchy there. Yep. Don't get me wrong. Smith, Slater, Bromwich's, you know, Cronk, when they would have trained hard in the preseason, but nowhere near the level of intensity that the young and the new lads that need that base. And that's what I'm talking about, laying those foundations. You know, not everyone needs to go on an army camp every single year.
Yeah.
Not every player, like, you earn that level of trust in you know, your contact.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to be doing. Some players don't need massive contact sessions.
Yeah.
You know, your point, Payne Haas doesn't need conditioning sessions,
and
that weighs on you. It's like, you could argue it must become monotonous and boring, and that would play into it. It's like, why am I doing this again? Have I not proved to you that I can play?
Yeah.
Or, you know, when I was, you know, clubbing of the year, when we were the Wooden Spoon, I was proving to you then, like, this isn't Payne Haas in terms of consistency. Whether that team is Wooden Spoon or grand finalists, is a 9 out of 10 minimum each and every week. To the point, it actually looks like he's taking the piss with how easy he makes the game look, how easy he chases back in the 79th minute.
Yeah, easily the best front rower over the last few years. Broncos fans might say, do you know what? We'll take it for a premiership. We got one premiership. If that's the way it is, you know, we'll take the one premiership. But South Sydney fans might say the same about Michael Maguire. But if Madge didn't sort of push Sam Burgess and Ben Teo out with his methods, maybe they would have won a couple more premierships. And maybe they would have had this real dynasty period. And, you know, the Broncos might still be contenders when Payne Haas leaves. They've got a very, very good squad. But they also might fall in a heap when Payne Haas leaves, because that's how much influence he has on their team.
Well, two things. Let's go back to Souths. And it wasn't a simple option A, option B situation for the hierarchy at South Sydney. But let's put it to the fans. Would you rather keep Maguire or keep Burgess and Teo? If we're reading between the lines, that's why it's separated at the time.
Well, it's kind of well documented, isn't it? That definitely played an influence.
All right, let's take it as there was an element of that.
Yeah.
If you're a South Sydney fan, or if you're a South Sydney power broker, a decision maker, what's your choice?
I know what I'd pick. I'd be Sam Burgess and Ben Teo every day of the week.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. So I mentioned something on Monday's episode with Kez that, like, nothing's off the table. And I've been thinking about this a lot around, like, really complex decision making. And if again, we're assuming this is all true, and look, I believe there's enough evidence there to suggest that it is, that it is a relationship breakdown.
But we're not assuming. We've spoken to people very close to the story, so we're not assuming. There's a lot of knowledge that has been gained over the last few days by talking to people very, very close to the situation. Charlie, so it's not an assumption.
Charlie, I don't need to speak to anyone to see that there's enough red flags there for me to go, in all likelihood, you know, beyond reasonable doubt, I'm taking it. And so if you're a Broncos decision maker, like, this goes against most of my principles around, like, even this entering the conversation, being put on the table. How do we keep Payne? Like, the situation is he's leaving because of the coach. Well, if we want to keep him, we have to get rid of the coach.
Yeah.
So would you rather, because, well, and people go, well, that's not on. He won us the premiership. Well, yeah, he was part of it. He set that foundation. Maybe it's what they needed at that time, but it's not what they need now. Well, there's two types of coaches. And Wayne Bennett used to say there's sack coaches and the others are just waiting to be sacked.
Yeah.
So, like I said previously, Payne Haas at the age of 26 now, 6-7 years of him?
Yep.
Maguire's not there in 6 or 7 years.
No, probably not.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
So, how do you... And people go, how can you sack the premiership winning coach? With Mourinho gone. It's been done. Mourinho was sacked as the Premier League winner from memory. I think he was sacked. He didn't complete the year after they won the premiership.
The last Broncos coach was sacked not long after making a grand final.
Exactly. And if you believe certain people, then that decision was made halfway through that season.
Yeah.
So with this situation now and the complexities of it, you make a really difficult decision now to keep Payne, and it causes... Yeah, there's so many fires you've got to put out, and there's so much like attention and scrutiny would come on this. But you save Payne, right?
Yeah.
And someone else comes in, and look, the bar is set incredibly high again. But what happens now with the Broncos? And you're saying, and they are still a contender because they are talent stacked. But I can't envisage this story going away, and how influential, not even with his words, but by this being there about, the best front rower that's arguably ever graced the planet is about to leave.
Yeah, the biggest club in the game. They're leaving.
There's no...
I know Souths are massive, but Broncos are the biggest club in the game.
With no rational reason other than the fact that it's the coach and what that does in and around the dressing room. Like, subconsciously, like, players are there going, he's the fittest player in the team. And he's saying it's too much.
Yeah. Well, mate, from your experience with playing... I want to ask you about Gareth Widdop, because obviously he left the Dragons and that was a huge loss for you guys when he was at the Dragons. He was super influential in the team, and it got announced a similar time in a season when this happened. So it was just before, I can't remember the year.
I think before the
2019 season. Yeah, and Gareth Widdop leaves, and what influence did that have on you guys at the Dragons?
Well, yeah, Gaz left to go to England, and he had his reasons. And look, he was still under contract at the club. I thought I was probably a bit dirty on the club for not denying him the release, but just I'm sure they tried. He was the captain. I think certainly top 3 5/8 in the comp at the time. I thought he was integral to the team's chances of winning. He was one of the main reasons I was at the club. Like, I loved playing with him. And he leaves, and then the decisions basically after that was to sign a replacement in Corey Norman straight away, who was going to play 5/8 the following year, but then how can you fit them both in? We had Benny Hunt there at the time, so one had to play fullback. That meant Dufty was offside. Lomax's days of being a fullback were gone, and it was a difficult juggling act to get that balance right, because neither of them wanted to play fullback, but one of them was going to have to. So a bit different in this situation, but
how did it feel though? You're coming into the season's about to start, and one of your best players says they're going to be leaving at the end of the year. But what does that do to a group?
Well, look, we'd been through an emotional year the year before, and just felt like more bad news.
Yeah,
it felt like, we had an amazing year in 18. 19 for certain circumstances was a write-off. That didn't get resolved, and then now Gaz was leaving. It kind of felt like, oh, is this the start of the ship sinking?
And Gareth Widdop was an unbelievable player, but he's not as influential on the Dragons as Payne Haas is for the Broncos.
No, he isn't. And look, you'd be naive to think that Payne isn't, and how influential he would be. And he of course, he's explaining to the lads in the team about why he's going.
Yeah.
He's having those private conversations because they're his mates. You've got to trust them, and he trusts them. And look, mate, just... And then if it's too much, if this isn't acceptable or to be expected by Payne Haas, the best front row, then why is it for me? Maybe it should be. I don't know, but this story isn't going away. There's been attempts to have this one smothered or put to bed.
Yeah, the PR spin doctors are out.
We're going to not make no further comment because this is why, this is it. We've all got to move on. Nothing to see here. Well, brilliant, great. I'm sure the Broncos wish no one was talking about it.
And good leadership from the executives to try and take on the blame of, like, if they're the ones that are getting the story out about lowballing him, good on them. For, like, they're trying to take the attention away from the coaching staff and onto them as executives. That's what you should do as an executive.
All right, if it's true, stand down.
Yeah, if it's true, if you're the decision maker who lowballed Payne Haas, if that's a genuine thing you did, should be sacked immediately.
Should be sacked for incompetence.
Yeah.
Should
be sacked immediately.
Yeah, like, you know what? The relationship between Maguire and that said person should become untenable. Yeah. How have you let this happen?
Yeah. Like that's why it's so hard to believe that they would lowball him, because you've got your most important assets to that club are Reece Walsh and Payne Haas. If you were an executive, you would do everything in your power to keep these guys happy. In fact, you would never even let Payne Haas reach November 1. You would upgrade and extend before it gets to November 1. You certainly wouldn't lowball him, because that's the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, and even the fact that it was being spoken about, like, now the stories come out. Oh, it was a 5-year deal. Well, not but
the extension they're going to now offer during the cooling
is now 5 years. Well, look, the talk was, and it was widely reported that he'd almost verbally agreed to 12-month 1-year extension, which for me seemed odd because it didn't, from memory, it didn't line up timing-wise with R360's, potentially coming into, like, starting their comp whenever they are. I would have just missed that. But it's like, why would you extend for a year? Like, is that him saying, I just need to see how much I can do here? I don't want to overcommit and find myself in the situation going, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I can't keep doing this. Like, what? Why wouldn't you sign a 5-year extension?
Exactly. But also, if that's the offer you were going to present to him, and does that mean Payne Haas wanted that and you didn't give it to him in the first place? Because that's again, why would you do something like that during the cooling off period if you had that, like, bullet in your arsenal? You would have fired that at the start.
You fired that way.
You would have fired that in June last year if you wanted a 5-year extension.
Or when Payne tells them, like, you quickly put that.
That's what I think Madge has made a mistake dialing things up this offseason before Payne Haas was locked in. Like, at least get Payne locked in, signed, sealed, delivered. If they'd be smart enough to know that, because Payne wouldn't have just randomly. I'm sure there's been moments where he's been over it at times and verbalised situations where he hasn't been happy with. Why wouldn't you get him locked in and then dial things up? Like, just from a strategic standpoint, like, it just doesn't make any sense to risk having Haas.
Yeah, get that contract signed before.
Get the deal done
before Christmas. Let's get it done.
Get it done during the holidays. Just get that deal done.
But in terms of this story and the effect on the camp, well, you got two things. Like, you, as a teammate, you're either pissed off at the club for lowballing him, or you're wondering what on earth's going on with this relationship. What have I missed? What is the issue? Because it's clear that there's an issue.
Yeah.
If the money side of things, like we say, if it is true that they botched the deal.
Well, it's not. We know it's not about money because, as you said earlier, he would have gone to every club.
Yeah, exactly. He'd go to Mark. But let's just say, let's run with that from that story coming out. You asked the question, you botched that?
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah. It would be, Dave Donaghy. If Dave Donaghy's that silly, which I don't think he is, so it's strange. Let's talk about the second biggest signing, Jimmy, of the week. The man, Owen Trout, going from the Lee Leopards, one of the best rugby league names ever. Owen Trout going to play for the Sharks. Do Sharks eat Trout? Maybe. I'm not sure.
Ooh,
I don't know
like
what
you've done there.
But it's a 2-year deal coming from Lee. Obviously, he's a big lad. He's 1.9 metres. He's big. More of a back rower over in England, but has played in the middle. What do you make of him?
Look, great player. Like shot onto the scene at the Lee Leopards. I'm delighted he's coming to the NRL. I'm just surprised at the Sharks. Like, they've got probably more of an edge than a middle, but he can play middle. But either or, I think they're pretty comfortable with. Like, I don't look at the Sharks and think, I tell you what, they need some more forwards. Like, in fact, they probably need to get rid of forwards. They've got Teague Wilton and Nickera. I really like both of those two players. Then in terms of middles, they've got Adam Fanua-Blake, Jesse Colquhoun's just re-signed.
Yep.
And then you've got
Hamlin Uele's off contract end of this year.
Well,
so is Toby Rudolph.
You've got Kaufusi.
Yep, Oregon
Kaufusi there. You got Cam McInnes there who's off contract.
That's the thing. Cam McInnes is off contract.
Yeah.
Toby Rudolph's off contract. Hamlin Uele's off contract. There's a lot. Talakai's off contract as well. Yeah. Maybe he plays that back rower off the bench.
Yeah.
But
again, it's not where I personally would have highlighted that the Sharks need. But I mean, I'm pleased for him. And
Billy Burns is off contract as well, he's played back row at times off the bench.
Yeah, Billy Burns last year was
underrated,
amazing in finals, and I imagine he's not taking a lot of salary cap space up. No. He was quality last year.
He was good,
especially the back end.
Do you think he's cut out there for the NRL? You think it's a good move for Owen?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Big body, like very big body, which I think helps him.
Now, we're going to do some more most likelies because last week we obviously did a few most likelies. We only got through half of them.
Okay.
And they make for fantastic social media clips, Jimmy.
Oh, well, I'm all about the socials, Charlie. You know me.
You certainly are. I'm going to give you the first one. Who's most likely to drop a controversial podcast this season?
Like as in current player?
Could be current player, mate. It could be an ex-player who says something scandalous. Could be a journalist who says something scandalous. Ooh. Could be a ginger, red-headed man who says something. Well, they're both the same thing, aren't they? Ginger and redhead. It could be a ginger who says something scandalous.
Willie Mason's always good for it. Yeah.
Well, he's already. Did you see his take on levels? Love Willie Mason, one of the greats. But he's got the Panthers missing the 8.
You joking?
Yeah, he's got the Panthers outside the 8.
What?
Yeah. Like, that's already controversial enough. I'm not joking.
You're not joking?
No, I'm not joking. I can go on the Levels Instagram and tell you exactly who's in his 8.
So who's in his 8?
I'll tell you.
I've got Penrith for winning the comp.
100%. And most people do. It's probably I love Willie Mason, but I think it's the craziest take I've ever seen in all rugby league media ever. Here it is. Look, he's got the Bronx in first place, Roosters second, Storm third, the Doggies fourth, Sharks fifth. Sorry, Raiders fifth, Sharks sixth, Warriors seventh, Dolphins eighth.
You know what? Looking at that top 8, it's hard to say, Penrith come in for that side.
Are you kidding me? Penrith would come in for the Dolphins, Warriors, Sharks,
yeah, they're
Raiders,
Bulldogs,
Storm,
coming for all of them. But
Chooks, Broncos.
I'm saying it's a strong top 8.
It is.
I know Parramatta as well.
Yeah.
Who a lot of people are tipping to play finals this year, but that.
It's going to be hard for any teams to really shake up the 8 from it's going to be a wild race.
Can you imagine if it's right? It's like
he's a genius.
It's like the reverse Canberra.
Yeah, but what if they're first? Then it's like Penrith Panthers will be clipping up everything that Willie said about it at the start.
Yeah, I reckon they're really concerned.
But yeah, then Justin Horrow, he had the Panthers in at third. So no Bulldogs.
No Bulldogs.
I'm actually...
Well, he's got Manly. He's a Manly man, isn't he? So he's got Manly in the top 8. So yeah.
No Warriors. No. Do you know what, though? The Dogs could miss the 8, Jimmy.
Of course they could.
Of course they could, because a lot of teams have gotten better. There's still so many question marks over
And
the
so
Dogs.
have the Bulldogs.
They have. Yeah, they have.
So, a lot of teams have gotten better, like the Canterbury Bulldogs. So,
but
cheers, Charlie. Thanks for that insight.
Next question.
A controversial podcast.
I like Willie. I think that's a good shout. You got anyone else? Paul Kent, Paul Kent could maybe throw something out that's a bit controversial.
I reckon could do something really controversial.
Yeah.
Kyle Flanagan. Don't know
Kyle
why.
Flanagan,
Just like about his dad or something.
Yeah, like they have a falling out.
Like if they ever fallen out, like
yeah.
he just comes out and is like,
Zach Lomax.
Well, imagine Kyle come out and it's like, oh, I'm getting all this heat. It's like, no, my dad can't coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he's the problem.
He's the problem.
Like,
I've been trying to leave for years.
It's all on him.
Yeah.
Zach Lomax. I don't think Zach could do one.
We've had him on before. If you want to hear Zach Lomax,
I've asked him to come on again, but
Brusher. He's sort of got a gag. He's almost gagged at the moment, isn't he? Because everything's in court. He's living in Melbourne as well. That's a good point, Tony just made. He's living in Melbourne.
Oh, okay. What wonder why he's moved there?
Yeah,
AFL?
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Maybe play for the Melbourne Storm, perhaps. Next question. Who's most likely to have fans calling for a rebuild by round 6?
Look, I mean, in terms of the likelihood, you've got to go
Manly?
I was going to say Cowboys.
Yeah, I think it's Manly or the Cowboys, isn't it?
They're likely, but they could go well, and who knows?
They're basically, it's the two jobs that if you're going to see a guy sacked, it's probably Seabold or Payton after 6
unfortunately,
to 8 rounds.
It's part of the landscape that we live in, isn't it?
It is. Next one, Jimmy. Who's most likely to get fined for a post-match spray?
Ooh. Maybe what I want to say Josh Hannay.
Josh Hannay, firecracker.
Well, just
Titans get dudded early and he lays down the law. We're not a small club.
Yeah, and just like he's new to speaking after the games. He's gonna have to give his opinion. Maybe he doesn't know you get fined, and maybe he's on the back of a dud call. They've worked so hard, and he's going to come out swinging.
He was good in the mic in Origin as well. He did a couple times he had to speak last year when Billy was having the stuff, and he was quite good on the mic. Josh Hannay. Obviously, Ricky Stewart's always a chance. Yeah. Do you know what, though? This is a thing I'd love to see. The NRL get rid of fining coaches for post-match sprays. Let's welcome the truth. Let's embrace the truth. If they've got a real opinion, let them say it. Let them spray an official. Who cares? Who cares if an official gets sprayed? Like, that's part of being the job as an official. If they make a mistake, lots of people are going to be spraying them online anyway. Yeah. Let these coaches be emotive. It actually helps create more excitement around the game. It's like, it's not a bad thing. Yeah. If a coach has a great spray, it like stays around forever. Think of Jeff Tuvey. Yeah. There's got to be an investigation. Brilliant. That's been used in marketing the game of rugby league so much over the last few years. Like, let the coaches say what they think. Get rid of the fines.
I'm with you.
Where is the NRL most likely to take the next international game? Now, this is obviously off the back of the report that they're, after Vegas, they'd be looking at, places like Japan, Tokyo, the United Arab Emirates, even London.
I think London. I think it makes sense. The NRL, most of the commission were there for the Ashes. And as maybe exciting as a UAE venture or Middle East venture would be, and there's a lot of sport goes there with a lot of money, I reckon, optics are important. And fans would travel to those areas to watch their teams play. I just wonder how many the locals would take it up. But I reckon if the commissioner to look at the fandom in the Super League and to take an NRL game there, if London Broncos get back into the Super League, you could easily line up like a double header at Tottenham Stadium. I don't think Wembley has this historical, prestige. Like there's so much relevance there with rugby league, and it's at Wembley, but Tottenham's stadium, the Emirates, you're more likely to fill them as opposed to fill a 90,000 seat stadium or Wembley. I'm just thinking if it was to coincide with, if you think about a Vegas round, two NRL games there, if you were to take a game to either Vegas again, but then go to England with maybe 2 Super League games plus an NRL game in one of the big stadiums in London, I think it would do really well.
What about having the World Club Challenge? What about if you could time it? So the World Club Challenge, you look at the dates. We got the 20th of February over here is when the World Club Challenge is. Could you push that back a week, have a longer round one like we do for Vegas, and then that team is the bye after, gives them plenty of time to recover? I think that could be a way of doing it. Give them the round one bye. They go over there, play the World Club Challenge. But I know England don't have to reshuffle things, but it's easier to do than people make it out to do.
But in terms of that's not the NRL.
So that's still good to have a World Club Challenge.
Yeah, it's still great to have a World Club Challenge. Yeah, it is.
Like imagine you got a World Club Challenge then an NRL game.
Yeah,
that'd be brilliant.
Or a World Cup Challenge and then an NRL game. Oh, yeah, okay.
Like, so instead of having a Super League, or you could do a triple header. You could treat it like you'd have one Super League, the World Club Challenge, and an NRL game.
Yeah,
I see that you could sell at Wembley.
I think you could be onto something there. I guess the only downside is, like, fans love to, if you're traveling, like most of Dogs, Bulldogs, Dragons, Cowboys, Newcastle fans have been, planning this for months. Not many Broncos fans will go over to Hull because, October, and then it only got announced.
It'll be mostly expats who live in, a lot of Brisbane fans would live in.
It'll be Hull KR, or general rugby league fans, because the stars of the attraction is Walsh.
Yeah.
And Payne Haas, Carrigan, Staggs. Like, they want to go and see, and Reynolds, Hunt, they want to go and see those players.
Yeah.
So that's the big attraction where, Broncos fans, plus going over if NRL kicked off in round one, it'd still be winter, but it's just there's not enough runway maybe for Broncos fans because it only got announced in maybe, November, December. It's not a lot of time.
You're in it by October.
Yeah, you're in it,
so October 5. But, and you know what you could do if you're really trying to, well, mate, if you know by October 5, that's earlier than with the Vegas, Just, you mentioned Tottenham, mate. You mentioned Tottenham. They might be going down.
Oh, yeah, they could be, yeah.
Tottenham could be getting relegated. An absolute frothing bubble.
But I reckon, for me, England, London, that makes sense. Because
I like Japan. I like the idea of Japan, mainly for a holiday side of things.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking destinations, I mean, where do we
I wouldn't mind a trip to Tokyo.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd all love to go and jet set, you name what game in
United Arab Emirates would be all about the dollars, all about the cash. That would be.
Yeah, I'm thinking the show that we could put on, and also especially around like TV deals. There's obviously coinciding at the same time with the Super League one being on. It'd be a push there for the NRL to really show as well. We can make your competition better. The English fans and the NRL, I think there's optics and there's more revenue streams. Yeah, I think personally, and look, there'd be pros and cons to UAE, pros and cons to Tokyo, pros and cons to Miami, but I think Vegas it sells itself.
Yeah,
and then there's too much going in England. There's too much going for a move to England to ignore that. And I think that's what puts that on top.
And Rugby League needs to try and do as much as they possibly can to keep attention alive for Rugby League in England.
Yeah.
Next one and final one. Which new recruit is most likely to have a bigger impact? Daly Cherry Evans or Dylan Brown?
Dylan Brown, because the only way is up for the Knights.
The only way is up, baby.
I think Dylan Brown, if the Knights go well, he'll be spoken about. If Roosters go well, I don't think it's DCE's show.
I'm excited to watch the Knights this year. They're one of my teams I'm most looking forward to watching this year.
It's going to be interesting.
Just quick, let's talk the trials, Jimmy, because it's kind of the start of real trials. We've got footy tonight.
Mate,
how bloody good.
I know that there's a lot of games happening. Things that stood out for me in the teams that have been listed.
Yep.
our man, Halasima, in the centres for the Warriors.
Ooh.
What's doing that could be a master stroke. Like, that is like, okay. I see where, because he plays in the back row.
Yeah.
He could play anywhere.
Mate. He's big, he's athletic, he's skillful, like
he's fast.
Do
you remember the match when he scored and he showed and go and it's like you're thinking pass the ball and he's like, no, I'm too fast.
Bang.
Like, he could play centre. So looking forward to that. All-Stars matchup.
Before we get to All-Stars, Tommy Flegler.
Yes.
First chance to watch
back.
Tommy Flegler in a long time. You're mates with Tommy Flegler. You've interviewed him before. How happy are you for him?
Mate, I think it's a real feel-good story. Like, you hate seeing players get injured. And it was from nothing, wasn't it? And you know the hardship that he's been through. When I met him, I was like blown away by you know that rugby league people are good people anyway, but there's something special about him, and in terms of his backstory, like banana farmer, it's a cool story, and the adversity, and we're in and around the traps, Charles, and we know that for as optimistic as Tom Flegler was, there was also a number of people that were saying they weren't confident he'd ever play again. So delighted for him. Obviously, Morgan Knowles comes into that side as well. He's getting his first run out for the Dolphins.
Jack Hetherington in the front row for Melbourne Storm, along with Davi Moale. One of these two is going to pop this year for Melbourne. You can you can feel it.
There's a couple of good like individual stories here in the trials, and a lot of things to look out for. But it's headlined by the All-Stars game and the two fullbacks, Trey Fuller and Keanu Keeney. Like, if you don't tune in for that, you're mad.
Absolutely mad. That's 3:45 p.m. Sunday, Sydney time, 2:45 p.m. Brisbane time, mate. The All-Stars is, for me, that's footy's back. When you sit down, watch that game, that's the feeling of, all right, we're on here. Used to be the Charity Shield for me growing up, because as a kid, I think it was one of the only trials you could watch, basically, the Charity Shield. But now it's the All-Stars game. I can't wait for it. All the ceremonies at the start. Like, it's just such a good event.
It is, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of a couple of All-Star weekends before they changed from Indigenous v Maoris. And
Preston Campbell medal winner.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Are you the only white man to have won the Preston Campbell medal?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I remember that particular game, though. GI fended me, and I was so embarrassed. Like, he made me look like I was like a toddler trying to tackle him.
Yeah.
Because we went in sync together, so I think I got isolated, and he just went and fended me. And I was like, oh, God, that's pretty bad. I'm not the only person to fall victim to it, but it was pretty bad. Like, it was a proper, like, palm in the face, and he's got massive hands. It was just, oh, God.
He's a huge human. Like, huge human. You know who also is, like, deceptively massive? We were at the NRL launch on Tuesday. And you were obviously interviewed Stephen Crichton. Far out, Stephen Crichton's massive.
Yeah, he is.
He's massive in person. Like,
it's fun, like, when you watch players on TV and then you meet them in person, like, people sometimes say to me, "Oh God,
yeah."
Sometimes people say, "Oh, you're a lot smaller than I thought you'd be," but I don't know. There's some players you get up close and personal to, and you're like, oh, "Holy jeez!"
Like Stephen Crichton, you're just like, imagine being like. Stephen Crichton's why I stopped playing rugby league as a 15-year-old was the scary motherfuckers that you had to go up against.
Oh, I thought you actually played against them. I was like, did Stephen Crichton give you a bath or something? Oh, yeah, I just couldn't. I was like, hang on a minute, you're 30 this year. I was like, Crichton's, what, he was doing it like 5 years, maybe 6 years younger, 7 years younger than you? That would be embarrassing.
That would be embarrassing as a 7. He's 7-year-old.
You're 17. Boom, get out the way.
Probably would have happened. Probably be realistic. No, but he's huge. He's huge. Launch was good, mate. A lot of teams in good spirits.
Yes,
this year.
Very good. Like, yeah, it was a pretty hot day down there, but I enjoyed it. It was good vibe. All the captains were in good spirits, and I think happy to promote the game and get excited about it. There's an excitement in the air. I've said this on a podcast we've pre-recorded that's coming out soon around how I think this year we could really see the appetite for a wild card weekend in finals, because you mentioned Willie's teams for the finals, and Justin Horrocks. There's some good sides missing out.
Absolutely, there is. Good to see you, my friend.
Likewise, Charlie, in your what was that? What's the rapper? The Barcelona shirt?
This is a Travis Scott Barcelona jersey. I didn't realize it was Travis Scott until I was stopped in the middle of the street. I just bought it from a Barcelona shop. Just a shop in Barcelona. Don't know why I called it a Barcelona shop, but yeah. Travis Scott, apparently.
Yeah.
Didn't realise it, but then I got stopped and the guy said, "Hey, Travis Scott." And I was like, "Oh, mate, nah.
It looks good on you, mate.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate
the 75 hard is paying off.
Thanks, mate.